going on, guys? This is Political Ideas and Thoughts. And this video is about, how to actually fix, if it's broken, if you consider it broken, which I'll go into maybe later, because I'm not sure about that necessarily, but I can understand where people get that idea from. But this video is about how to fix immigration in this country, right? There's no real nuance when it comes to this debate of immigration. There's either with one side it goes build a wall, pretty much no asylum at all, unless you're, he's changing, Trump is changing the asylum laws, and, the media isn't really talking about that for some weird reason. They're talking about the vapes and stuff like that, but I don't know. That could be due to their bias or something. I don't know what it's due to, but it's getting all these things done. Building a wall on the southern border. There's an argument that says this might work. The problem isn't, immigration. The problem is the way to fix these problems. The way to stop people from coming over. Although, there is an argument to say, actually you want some of these people to come over, because different perspectives and ideas is how you increase awareness and education. But that's another video. But the way to fix these problems is not to build a wall, create all these laws, immigration laws in a lot of ways. It's to stabilize these countries. I'm not saying you have to give them money necessarily. I'm just saying that a lot of these countries are dealing with a lot of gang problems and cartels and stuff like that. And a lot of this has to do, a lot of this comes back to what I was talking about in my last video about the drug war. The reason why, there's people still getting drugs and why the drug war isn't working is because when you ban, drugs or whatever it is, criminal elements are going to use that to make money. I mean, like I said, there are things that, should be banned, like child porn and stuff like that. Like, I get stuff like that. Okay, I understand that. But drugs, most of the time does no harm to anybody but the person who's doing the drugs. How do you fix that? You fix it with education. You fix it with, understanding or whatever. You don't fix it by banning drugs. You don't fix it by criminalizing the people who are doing the drugs. Most of these people are already suffering enough as it is. The same thing with immigration. You don't fix the problem by deporting the people, unless they're criminals or whatever. Not necessarily by deporting them or anything like that. I mean, if they're criminals, I guess I can see that, but you fix it by helping those countries out with poverty and gangs and stuff like that. You can do like joint country ventures or something. I mean, some of those countries won't do it necessarily, possibly, but it's a start. And I hate to get into this, but our foreign policy has never really been very good. I think this has to do with the fact that we have a very blue, well, not very blue, but somewhat blue, mindset. Some of our politicians are very blue because they're the old guard, the older guard generation. I believe in term limits, but that's another video. But like I said, you don't fix the problem. There are some too who are saying, abolish borders, get rid of ICE or whatever. That may not. I don't think that's going to work either. And the reason why is because if you abolish borders, you may have. I don't know what's going to happen. This is the point. We don't actually know. We don't have some kind of any foreknowledge of what the consequences might be. I'm not saying that there aren't any problems with ICE or any of this stuff, but you fix these problems. You have to fix the problem. And then part of the problem might be a lack of, understanding of these people, or a lack of awareness, or a lack of love, or a lack of education on how to deal with these types of people. I honestly don't know what the solution is necessarily, but I do know that you have to stabilize these countries, because they will come over. I mean, they still will come over possibly anyways, but most of the problems are economical, or gang, or whatever related. So you fix immigration by dealing with these specific problems, whatever they may be. And if you abolish borders, what's going to happen? These gangs are going to come over. This is the argument, which is possible, and it's definite possibility. But these people are going to come over, and it's going to ruin our economy as well. But I think there's even an even better reason not to do this. And it basically comes to if you abolish these borders, if you decriminalize, crossings or whatever. Although I do agree with that to some extent, but I'll go and get into it later. But if you do this, the gangs might use this as a way to get themselves a stronger presence here, in a lot of ways. Some can argue that they already do, but we can have that conversation later. But when you there's a point to be made about decriminalizing border crossings to some extent. I don't think decriminalizing necessarily, but I do think moving us away from putting them in, cages or whatever. I don't know if that's necessarily what they're doing, but they're not necessarily treating them completely correctly. There's some problems and practices that shouldn't really be done, and the criminalizing of the border crossings isn't really working. I don't think decriminalizing would necessarily work, but I think making it, maybe like a misdemeanor or something would be, because putting them in prison isn't really good, and deporting them may not always work either. I think it has to be based on like a case by case basis, which would be difficult to enact in law. But I think this is true for a lot of things. If you have gun violence problems in a city, the way to deal with it isn't to necessarily ban guns in the entire country. It's by trying to figure out what laws should be made in that city, and making those laws and trying to see what actually works. Another thing, and when it comes to minimum wage, if you the way to deal with this isn't necessarily to just enact a $15 minimum wage across the country, because in some places that will be too much, in some places it won't be enough. So you have to go by like a case by case basis. It has to be based on whatever the economy metrics are, or whatever. Not that necessarily we have to have a minimum wage or whatever. I don't know. I'm not real sure about that one necessarily. I do think there's some good arguments, but I don't know. This is why I try not to be too opinionated about these things, because when you become too opinionated about these things, you block yourself off from wisdom and learning more about the other position, and you lose awareness. You become reactive. So I try not to become too opinionated about these problems. So, but like I said, there are problems with our immigration system. But the way to deal with it isn't to just outright come with the simple answers. It has to be based on what is happening, what are they doing, what is causing these illegal crossings. Well, we know what's causing them, but and what is ICE doing? What is ICE doing? Is it doing things good? Is it doing things bad? And then we can work with laws in this way. This isn't really talked about. We need some kind of empirical approach to making and enforcing laws and codes of conduct and things like that. We don't really have that for some weird reason. I mean, we have it with like some laws, but mostly we just don't. I mean, it's one of the weird things, and this is not really a criticism, it's just a weird thing that I've noticed. But like a lot of stage orange, like atheist type people are very critical of fundamentalist religious people, which is fine. I understand that. There are some problems with how certain people try and proselytize and do the religion and try and enforce it. So I understand that, but at the same breath, that they may end up talking about doing certain similar things with politics. So I guess I'll just end with this: all dogma and ideology is bad. Dogma can be in politics just as much as it can be in religion. It can be in anything, really. I mean, people are ideological about video games. Oh, this video game is better. I'm like, yeah, it's just a video game. And they'll argue about it. I might make a video about what ideology is and what it seems to do. More often than not. I'm not necessarily innocent of becoming super opinionated, but I'm trying to learn from doing this. So anyways, this is political ideas and thoughts, and I don't know, if you don't like this video or whatever, let me know why in the comments. Let me know if you have a different idea, because I want to know if you think I'm right or wrong or whatever, because it is an interesting thing that's not really discussed in a very, not necessarily in a very simple way, but even in a very nuanced way like this. So anyways, this is political ideas and thoughts, and I'll see you on the next video.